the connection between the Great New Haven community and Thelonious-Monk. Thelonious-Monk is, I'm not going to talk too much because we're going to get a lot about his history and background, but he is one of the most inimitable musicians in the history of jazz and the history of American music, period. He is from North Carolina, but the family has roots that go throughout the American society as well as up here in the New Haven area. Introducing the Monk family will be LaShante, and she will get us started here. Again, thank you all who showed up and to come out, and again, hopefully for those who are here in attendance who are not connected to the family, get a lot out of what it means to be connected to our society through the Monk family. All right, so LaShante, come on up.
I actually prefer to stand if that's okay, so that I can reference what is being projected here. My name is LaShante James. I am Pamela Monk Kelly's daughter. That's how I am a monk. My grandfather was Conley Monk, and his father was Theodore Babe Monk, whose father was Hinton Monk. See, I'm very fortunate to be able to go back so many generations, and I hope after this presentation you not only learn about Thelonious, but you are inspired to dig a little deeper into your history, because you may uncover some gems there as well. And my assistant is my cousin, Jaquana. Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Even though Thelonious, our family is from Newton Grove, North Carolina, Thelonious, the jazz player, who is named after his father, was born in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. These are just some images of him. He was their youngest son and is known for playing bebop. This historic landmark is actually there to show you how far his birthplace is. And you could go ahead to the next slide. The nice thing about his birthplace is that my grandparents owned that house at one time. My uncle Conley Monk Jr., who is here, and my aunt Olivia Chris Monk Henderson were both born in the same house as the jazz player Thelonious Monk. So we have a connection right here in the room. This is his birth certificate, right? My mom's in the back. She's the historian, and I just go along with her and learn. So I'm able to kind of give you this information. This is the birthplace that I was talking about, 124 Dunn Street, where my grandparents owned the house. That house no longer stands. It was taken by eminent domain by the city. At this time, there's a park in its place. You can press it. I think the park might be the next picture. Oh, that's Thelonious as a baby. And you can keep going. At some point, the park will come up. It's now named the Thelonious Monk Park in its place. We do pilgrimage back there. We've done it via train ride, which is significant to our family because when blacks were making that migration north for jobs, they did it via train. So we go back via train and we congregate here in the park and have a nice fellowship as family. And it's right where the house used to stand. You can keep going. The community now, these are the houses that are around the community, and it used to be called the Wire, and now it's shortened to the Y. And they were just African Americans who came out of slavery, and they were able to find jobs in factories and form this community. And a street there is named after Thelonious Monk. And then down further, it was called Dudley Square. They have Thelonious Monk Plaza. This is, Dulles Block, and they always honor and pay tribute to Thelonious because he's from there. He's like their star. So they have gatherings. This is the Booker T Theater. It's a historic theater in Dulles Square. And this is the Harambe Center. This mural is supposed to signify that Y neighborhood I talked about. And the keys, which are the train tracks, the neighborhood is on like train tracks. And you can see they look like piano keys. So those are the tracks along where she grew up. These are Thelonious' parents. Thelonious' mother, Barbara Batts, and then his father, Thelonious Monk Sr. A lot of people don't know Thelonious Monk was a junior, and he also has a son named T.S. and a grandson named Thelonious. But Thelonious' father was my great-grandfather's brother, so my grandfather's uncle. When he passed away, his remains were donated to medical research. So we do not have that as a family, but what we did to commemorate his memory and make sure that his legacy is known, my family purchased this bench in memory of him and placed it in a cemetery in North Carolina. Is that the Cole Cemetery? In the Cole Cemetery, which would have been his mother's family, the Cole family. So, Newton Grove, I referenced that when I began. Although the neighborhood was in Rocky Mount, in which Thelonious the jazz player was born, his father, Thelonious Sr., was born in Newton Grove, North Carolina, which is where you will find the slave plantation where the Monk family came from. Archibald Monk was the slave owner at that time, and he was also the slave owner for my great-great-grandfather, Hinton Monk, who was a teenager and was liberated by the Civil War. This house still stands. It's called the Monk Heritage House. We have been there on several occasions, been able to go inside and take a tour. This is a replica of what the house would have been like. Monk Crossroads is the name of the road where, in Weeks Circle, where you can find that heritage house which stands. Sometimes the Monk family, and I'm going to reference them as the White Monk family or Archibald's descendants, they have a family reunion there. And Pam, who's my mom, was in People magazine when you get a chance. There's a copy of the magazine there, and she met the descendant of Archibald Monk, and they did an article called, I think it's called Color Lines. And they met on these grounds and took a photo shoot. And the descendants, his siblings and my mom's siblings, they all got together and they were able to document that occasion there at the Archibald Monk Heritage House. And as you can see, wait, go back, don't try. She tried to go fast because she was in that picture. So, this one is there with the belly shirt, and that one is there with the bow. So, no, really though, look at it. And then Uncle June, who we call Uncle June, he's there. But I really wanted you to see, Aunt Mott. Aunt Mott is in the picture. And is that you, Aunt Chris, in the back?
That's it.
I wanted you to see how long we have been pilgrimaging or going back to this. It's been a part of our history. So I don't know how old she is in that picture, but I can tell you that I've been going back for over 20 years, which is how fortunate is that for us to know this about our family and be able to, I can just give this to you from the top of my head. It's in me. That's why I like to make people laugh so I don't bore you. This is the picture I was referencing from the People magazine interview. All the siblings were able to get together, the descendants of Archibald Monk, the descendants of Hinton Monk, who was a teenager on his plantation, together in this photo. You keep going. This would be Thelonious and his brother Thomas and his sister Barbara. He's the youngest.
Marilyn,
sorry. Why does Barbara's mom? Okay, and this is Marilyn here, Thelonious and his brother again. This is my beautiful grandmother, Olivia Monk. This is Thelonious' sister, Marilyn. And this is my grandfather's sister, Pauline Monk Peacock. And they all had the opportunity to meet. With the migration, families went all over the Northeast, wherever there were job opportunities or to connect with other family members. And in that process, some people lost touch. But my grandfather, Collie Monk in the middle, we were very fortunate to have him because he was history personified. Like, he had it and he gave it to my mother and he made sure it came down to us and that we reconnected again. So this is at Thelonious Monk's funeral. I'm actually in my mama's belly. And this is Thomas Thelonious, the jazz player's brother. And this is Marion, his sister. Thank you. This is Marion. We had the opportunity to bring her back to the house. She had never been there before. Thankfully, when we reconnected with her, we shared that information with her and we were able to bring her back to the house. This is Nellie, Miss Nellie. Nellie Monk, she was Thelonious's wife. And we were also, she and Marion were like golden girls. A lot of energy, fun. You know how you say, oh, I want you to sit down and rest. What you mean? Let's go. Go out of bed. So they came down with us to the house, and she was able to visit as well. This is Nellie, Thelonious' wife, and this is T.S., Thelonious' son. Is this a sister? Please tell me her real name, because I don't... Barbara. Sister name is Barbara, named after his mom. But what did you all call her? Boo-boo. Boo-boo. They called her Boo-boo. And this is Nellie again. This is Thelonious' sister Barbara on an album cover. That's actually his autograph there. And T.S., Thelonious' son. And another album cover. We'll get to hear a sample of his music. This is Sierra, T.S.'s daughter. So this would be Thelonious, the jazz pioneer's granddaughter. And she's a grown woman now. And that's his son, Thelonious the Fourth. You can click that. This is a song you probably heard before on the radio. And this is T.S. I see your head moving. I see you. It still has some groove to it, right? And as you can see, T.S. is a drummer. So I call this the old school version. Once this one is finished, we'll go to the new school. So the singer in this video is Deron Flake, who is the son of Marcella Monk Flake and Dudley Flake. And the nice thing about this is T.S. was at this event and was able to hear his cousin sing his song. And that's him on the drums there. Uh-oh, Deron, get it. I see you. Hold it here. Oh, that's okay. So we're just going to take you quickly through the Monk family bloodline. To kind of solidify those connections for you. I know I'm throwing names out, trying to verbally make those connections for you, but it'll probably be easier once the pictures show up. This is Hinton Monk that I told you about. He is my great-great-grandfather. He was a teenager when the Civil War ended, which ended slavery, and we are so fortunate to have a picture of our ancestor to have to go through that. Most people don't have that treasure, and we are fortunate to have this. And he would have been Thelonious, the jazz player's grandfather. This is Sarah Monk, his wife. So not only do we have one, we have two, and the same thing for her. She would have been Thelonious's grandmother. She was my grandfather's grandmother. And that is Thelonious Sr., Thelonious Monk's father. This is Jack. This would have been Thelonious's uncle, his father's brother, John Jack. That's my great-grandfather, Theodore Monk. Help me out, Mama.
I can't remember who it is. Click it.
Click it.
Her name is there.
Vera. Oh, Vera Monk. It didn't go to her name. This is Squire Leah Monk. His nickname was Big Monk. The interesting thing about him, he found his way to Connecticut as well. He ended up living and working in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and his descendants still live there. And he is one of the only, I would call him like an original monk, who is still up here. He's buried in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And he would have been Thelonious' uncle as well. This is Bertha Monk. So are you familiar with the football player? I know we're talking about music, but the football player, Super Bowl Hall of Famer, Art Monk, is from the same family line. That would have been his ancestor, Bertha Monk. So there are ancestors we don't have pictures of who are siblings of Thelonious' father. So Eula Whitehead, Hetty White, Alonzo, and Lonzo. So I talked about that trip on the train where we go back to North Carolina, and one of the things we do is have kind of like a family gathering. This is Camp Tuscarora. We believe that some of our ancestors, descendants of the Tuscarora tribe in North Carolina. And you can. So here's an article about Thelonious Monk and recognizing him for his work. Some other news of his passing. And one thing his son always says is he really didn't, his dad was famous all of his life. He hung around all these people we read about in history books, but they were just like family. They were regular people in his house. And even after his father's passing, he really just didn't realize how famous he was. He was just a person. And when you see these articles, it really brings to the forefront how important he was to others, and we just see him as a family member. Oh, this is Thelonious in Harlem. That's okay. The National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. does have an exhibit that includes Thelonious Monk there. We were fortunate to visit and see this, which makes you feel good that your family member is honored in this way. And Minton's Playhouse is a place that he used to play often. So in Rocky Mount, I talked about that marker. This is a family member we were able to interview. And as you saw, he was 100 years old. You can keep going. Our history, we were often, she wants to go back to the video. She wants to hear everybody.
I can turn the volume.
Okay.
No, it's something comes up after that.
Just can't hear it.
Yeah, don't pass him. It'll be okay.
And so jazz musicians, we always believe everybody has something to say, just as we do in learn.
This is T.S. Thelonious' son.
And just as we do in our democracy, everybody is included. Everybody is included in jazz. It doesn't matter where you come from. You're automatically included in jazz.
Yes. This house, actually, I saw an article, it's for sale in Harlem. But yeah, they're trying to get people to donate to buy it. But these are all famous jazz musicians, and Thelonious Monk is in this picture as well. In New Haven, we're talking about the connection to New Haven. My grandparents own a house on Cedar Street, And now that corner of Cedar, Armistead and Cedar Street is called Monk Crossroads. And history tends to repeat itself. Just as our house was taken in Rocky Mount by eminent domain, New Haven took the house that my grandparents owned by eminent domain. But to pay homage and tribute to our family, we were given a street corner called Monk Crossroads, which also we have a Monk Crossroads in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. But the good thing about this is Monk Crossroads is a testament to what our family has contributed to New Haven. It's not just about our contributions to North Carolina. We're educators, we're police officers, we're veterans, we are in the church community, so we've hosted pageants in the area, very civic-oriented family, and so this is how the city of New Haven recognizes us. This is the unveiling of a banner, and on the banner, one side has the pictures of my grandparents, Conley and Olivia Monk, and the other side has pictures of Art and Thelonious. And I referenced Art Monk and his grandfather, Bertha Monk, earlier.
She sent, they called him to go get someone to tell him that he had died. He died in the chair. He had like fluid in his feet. They said he was close to his feet. Grandpa, yeah. Yeah, that's yeah.
So this is in Newton Grove
Cemetery.
And this is, keep going. This, no, she wants to play this one.
That's Sarah's brother. No. All there, Johnny, you're in there, great grandma.
My one question. Put this in years.
Okay,
What we talking about? 60 years, 80 years?
You gotta start 18 on what you do.
That's like 100, 200 years old.
200, yeah, 200 years old.
So that's 4 generations.
This is Grandma Sarah Johnson. You said her brother.
Yeah, I go back to my
Sister Ramsey. So these are all her sisters. And the sisters are in my book.
So this is a cemetery where all Monk family members are interred. And if you ever think about going back to research your family, if you have a family cemetery, that's a great place to start, because you can write down names and years and make connections between those people. And we don't just keep the history to ourselves. That was actually members of our Bridgeport family that we kind of separated from with the move, and then we became reconnected again, and we're sharing that history with them in North Carolina. And I spoke about our civic efforts in New Haven, and this is a breast cancer support group that my Aunt Jacqueline Monk Roberts started. The National Veterans Council for Legal Redress, my Uncle Conley Monk Jr., my Uncle Gary Monk, my Aunt Chris, Olivia Chris Henderson, they work in that effort. Pamela is on the board for that. My Uncle Conley was very instrumental in the Vietnam Veteran Memorial on Long Wharf. So again, referencing our civic efforts in New Haven.
Am I my brother's keeper? Man's question to God. This question was at the heart of the most complicated war in history, the Civil War, which divided brother against brother, philosophically and literally. Man's responsibility to do what's right by another man was at the root of the debate. The Emancipation Proclamation, which eventually demanded freedom for many slaves and paved the way for the 13th Amendment, which made it plain to all that we were free, changed the course of history. What did the proclamation do? It presented hope. It represented a new day. Unfortunately, like many documents in U.S. history, its power was limited and left little in the way of tangible options for those whose ancestors were kidnapped hundreds of years prior. Many slaves wrote about the celebrations that came when they learned of this new freedom, but they also wrote about the fear once the reality kicked in, that one war was over and another.
So that was my cousin Zakia Monk Baker, daughter of Colleen Monk Jr. And I just want to tell you about where she's standing. That is the Bentonville Battleground, which is a historic site in North Carolina. Hinton Monk, my great-great-grandfather, actually was on a plantation that was in the middle of the Civil War. And so that is where she's standing at making that speech. So it's a very powerful and significant event. Good.
No, this is it.
Leave it?
This is it.
Oh, she shortened it on me. So this is the end of our presentation. Here in this, it looks like a disc to me, but it's also an afro, but it talks about our roots. And they're descendants of the Monk family, all pictured here. They're also descendants of my grandmother's family, Olivia Monk. So if you go up kind of over them, their ancestors are right above them. And this was an abbreviated version because we're going to sing for you today. But I hope that this kind of awakens something in you to learn more and to learn about your ancestry, because the more you speak their names, they live.
That's right.
They live. And you are their legacy. You embody their legacy. So I hope that you take this and you run with it. Because I tell you, I sit up at night and look on Ancestry all the time. I just told my mother, you have more cousins on Ancestry. So I hope you enjoyed a little bit about the Monk family. I could go on for hours, so I'm going to put the mic away now. My name is LaShante James, and I'm going to turn this over to my aunt, Marcella Monk Flake.
Hold on, as we transition to Marcella, if there's any, because there's a few students in here, if you have any questions, this is the time to get some questions out before they start performing.
Yes, that was great.
Yeah, I'm going to start setting up the mic.
You go up there with her for the
Is
question.
there any questions for her?
You to answer the question.
Yeah.
So thank you, to all of you, to the entire Monk family for coming and doing this presentation for us today. I think even just myself speaking as, coming from another Black American family and kind of experiencing everything that goes along with many of the African American stories in this country, it's really empowering to see a family's history elevated and be remembered in such a way by, it seems like, the entire family, which is really special. And thank you all for sharing that. Could you illuminate, I guess, a little bit more? I mean, we talked about throughout the presentation, there have been a couple kind of historians in every generation that have kept, names and general information alive. But I guess in a more recent or modern context, how did you go about putting all of this together, kind of making sense of almost 200 years worth of family?
First of all, thank you for your compliment. I love that empowerment. It definitely is a way of empowering families. And so my grandfather saw this, I guess, gift in my mom and started this with her. And they did, before computers, before Google, they did some serious legwork in terms of looking at census records, going down to talk to relatives, National Archives. I remember as a child taking trips to North Carolina with my mom to DC and looking through the National Archives. And she would record a book with, or write a book with him as the first work. Then, as time went on, she continued the efforts after my grandfather passed away. She would go down to his relatives, people who were friends, who knew him growing up or knew his father, and record them on video. And then she would go watch the videos and write out the stories. So then you have Google coming up, and Ancestry.com is a great tool as well. Plug, they need to pay me for this. Ancestry.com was a great tool. So census records, veterans, we had so many veterans in our family. That's their records was great. Churches, monks were Catholic in Newton Grove, North Carolina, and Catholics keep great records. Baptism records, marriage records. we were able to find that. And then you saw the piece of the cemeteries. We're fortunate to have one place where monks are, but also Sarah's family had their own place. When the blacks were liberated in Newton Grove, many of them kept pieces of land, and part of that land they kept as a cemetery for everybody to be in one place. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's a passion. And it looks. I have 4 siblings. I am the one who kind of picked this up, and my daughter, who's only 8, goes to my mom and now says, "Show me the family tree and talk to me about our family history." So it's just something that's in you that really drives you to really want to know more. But it's definitely, we're in a better place now to have that information at our fingertips. So thank you so much for that question.
Can I add to it? Because he touched on something that was really dear to me. Alex Haley made a quote. He said that every time an elder or an older person dies, it's like a library just burnt down. So there's so much valuable information in the elders. I call them the elders. And it's because if you know someone that is, they're probably 80 years old, sit down with them. They're looking for attention anyway. And when you sit with them and tell them that they're valuable, and most of them do still have their mind. They might not have the activity of their limbs, but they can think, they can talk, and they can really tell you about the past. So I would, encourage you to do that, and don't wait. A lot of people say, "Well, I'm gonna go visit grandma next week." No, do it today. Give them a phone call. Like she said, technology is great now. You can reach out to them, and we've done that with just recently with a cousin that's 100 years old, and she was able to say, she knew my dad, and they met at the prayer meeting. Stuff that I never heard before. So I just encourage you to do that.
I want to ask one question. Person, the teacher, some of these students in here. My question is we know Thelonious is known as one of the jazz pianists, but everybody in the family is musical, and the question is at least performed in some capacity. Even just talking about the family today, how was music passed down amongst the family? Even back going, how did Thelonious get started? How does music connect to everybody with this last name or connected to this?
Well, from what I gather, Archibald, a benevolent enslaver is an oxymoron, as far as I'm concerned. But from what I understand, Archibald gave music lessons to the enslaved people on the plantation. Pam, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Now, the story with Thelonious, Marion was taking piano lessons. Thelonious would sit on the floor during her lessons and was memorizing the lessons taught. Marion hated piano. She told me she hated it with a passion. And so she said to her mother, she said, Thelonious likes this more than me. Can he take the lessons instead of me? Because I really want to see him do well. So Marion played that little game. And so Barbara consented, and so they switched up. In our little track, our branch of the tree, our dad, I was 5. My older sisters, I'm the 7th of 9. My older sisters were singing in a gospel group, and I wanted to sing, and I was too young.
Michael Jackson.
And so Daddy said, well, I'll start my own group. So when I was 5, he formed the Monk sisters, but we have 3 brothers. So it's 6 girls and then 3 brothers. At the time, there were 5 and 3. So Monk sisters, and then my brother Gary came on board, and so Daddy changed us to the Monk Singers. So I just turned 63. So we've been singing together for almost 60 years. And then our children, of course, we're all in the church, and our children have heard music from the womb. But it's funny because we'll meet cousins that we did not know who also sing. And it's just, I don't know, I guess it's just genetic.
And
not that we're that great. Please don't. I don't want you to come with this high expectation tonight. But you know, just that it's very funny that I'll meet someone. I just found a young lady on Facebook who's phenomenal, and she's in Arkansas. She's a monk and incredible singer.
we also had the piano in the home place in Newton Grove. Grandpa Babe. It was
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, the grand piano way back then when. Yeah.
And Great Uncle Thelonious also played because he taught Isabel to play.
Yes.
So it's just been generational. And we had a piano in the heart of New Haven in the hill. And my parents made sure we had a piano, and then they bought a brand new one for Jackie.
That's Jackie.
That's an inside joke. That's an inside joke.
All right, any other kind of questions or comments? All right, so I guess we're ready for you to perform.
Okay.
And I just wanted to also, while we're coming up, that we do have a display here, like LaShante mentioned. There's the People magazine that we're fortunate to be in, and there's the book about Sampson County, where Newton Grove is located. We have a book over here by Robin Kelly. He wrote about the times of Thelonious Monk. And I also have a book. You asked about all the information that we have gathered. It's in a 350-page book, the Blue Book, and it's written, authored by me and my daughters and my parents. Yes. So I have 2 books here today. If anybody want to purchase them, it's $20, and you get another book to go with it. And what else I have over there? So then we also have the Nubian Sisters. They have a display here, the breast cancer support group. If you need any information, Jackie's here. She can answer your questions. And my brother Conley, who is the founder of the Vietnam Memorial Monument that we showed you that's on the Long Wharf. If you have any veterans here that need some information, you can speak with him. I think I cover in Monk Center. Marcella will speak more about the Enrichment Center that she is the founder and the proprietor of. Did I cover them all? I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay, Monk singers, let's sing to the Lord.
Why are you crying?
We start them young. Down the side of me. Me?
This is
his work. I know it's been stated, but as a sibling, I want to thank you publicly for all of your work. Okay. Let's do it. Now you know gospel is interactive. I know you want to be. I can feel it. If you want to come on, get some excited. Come on. I know you want some. Come on. Y'all ready?
Yeah, Michael!
Anybody else want to Anybody else? Come on. Sopranos over here.
I'm an alto.
Altos over here. Get her in the middle. Come on. And after this, everyone else, we can teach you about it. How would that work? That work? All right. Okay. Okay, let Michael step up a little bit. Move it up. Move over closer to Chris. Okay.
I'm just getting over something.
Okay, all right.
I may not be here today. I can't bring shame to the mother name.
I've heard. So you do it. You do it. I know you do it. There we go. Come on. No one else? Stir. There we go. Thought we were ready. Yeah, just give me a little space. I can see Okay, we have one more selection. Actually, it's a solo.
Oh, yes.
So Dudley and I, this is our eldest, Duran, and he's going to sing something.